Hi, everyone. Let me check my audio settings.
Sounds good here.
Okay, good. Well, that was a time. Thank you, Rick. Hope your dog is okay.
He's getting there.
So, all right. So I'm gonna call the meeting at 6:48. And 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a quorum. I know that Emily isn't going to make it tonight. I don't know about the other two. Hi, Sonia. All right. Let's see. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Joan,
Okay. We'll move on. And have you all read the the meeting minutes for July?
I saw the meeting minutes that say they're for June, but I think they're for July. I'm trying to, I know,
It was the last, well, June, I don't think June June we didn't have a meeting.
yeah,
So maybe it was titled, maybe I didn't check the title. But anyway, it was July, yes. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
so moved.
Second? Okay, and who is taking minutes? Anybody?
No, they would be.
Nobody. All right, so you know what? I'm gonna do it from the recording again. Rick, if you could send that to me, that'd be great at the end of this. Also the other one. I don't think I got the other one yet.
Joan,
Yes.
it's Chris.
Yes, Chris?
Can you hear me?
I can, but you're very low.
Okay, let me see if I can fix it.
Well, maybe I can fix mine. Does everyone else hear Chris okay?
Yeah, he's low.
All right, maybe it's
Low
my
here.
settings.
I can hear him okay.
All right, it might be my settings. Hold on. Oh, this is so annoying.
How about now?
Try now.
Can people hear me?
Oh yeah, that's much better. It was my
Okay.
it was my settings that were screwed up. Sorry, folks. Okay.
We didn't have to do it tonight, but I was reading the agenda and I thought it would be nice to read the preamble again at the beginning of our meeting about Barre City being on Beneke land, that preamble.
Do you want to read it? It's okay with me.
You don't have to tonight, but I thought it would be nice to start doing again. I really thought it was important.
All right. I believe that my recollection is that the reason we stopped reading it is because apparently it was causing heartburn for some people. So to avoid heartburn, we stopped.
Well,
You can reinstate and see if anyone else gets heartburn, and then I'll dispense the antacids. All right. So we're actually in the middle of a vote here to accept the July minutes. All those in favor? Anyone object?
Aye.
Okie dokie, and moving on. So last time we talked about the priorities list, and there was one change that someone added, which I did, and I believe that change was about better flood preparedness. So I think that along with that list, I would like to do a report to the council about our progress from the last time we reported to them till now, because we'll have a couple of other things to talk to them about. One is this, our priorities list. We can submit that to them. And then some of the other things that are on the agenda tonight, we might want to also, we're going to also have to bring up to them, because one involves, well, it doesn't really involve a decision by them. It's really our decision. Did anyone have any more? I didn't get any more additions on email from anyone for the priorities list. And like I said, it's a living document. I think that, you know, anytime we come up with something that we realize needs to be added, we can do so. But at least this is kind of a beginning for the council to take a look at. Okay, new business. So I think I'm going to talk about actually all of these items, A, B, C, and D, sort of in the same way, in the same context, because they relate to one another in a very intricate way. I'm realizing that. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for sending me your answers to my questions about capacity. Yes, Chris.
I don't mean to interrupt. I didn't respond. I apologize. I honestly don't know which one to choose because I think both are applicable to me. So maybe we can talk about it after or something. I can see merits to both.
You mean in
Right.
terms of which working group?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So
definitely. I really don't know which one would be better for me to join. So,
well, let's talk about it, because maybe once we flush out what it means, what each group is going to be tasked with doing, that might make up your mind for you.
okay. Thank you.
So we have among you, this is not counting my volunteer time, 13 to 16 hours of work a month. And and that includes the hour or two that we spend at this meeting. So, and we've had some time, a lot of time, experimenting with different kinds of things, different kinds of ways to approach this type of work. And in my estimation, and I'm going to ask you whether you agree or not, to agree or not, it's up to you. In my estimation, the two things that we've been the most successful at have been the Let's Talk series, the discussion series, and also the adoption of the assessment tool. We were not so successful with our first charge, which was although we did it, the flag thing. One of the things, the other thing besides the flag that the council did tell us that they wanted us to do, because remember, we're looking for direction from them. And when I go over that document that formed us, the other thing was to examine the ordinances and policies. Now, in a way, this priority list goes directly to examining the policies and ordinances, because that's the meat of where we're going to find both definitions about what, they're really laws, and also so we can define what the things are, and we can also look at them to see if they look at them with an equity lens. So to me, that's one working group is going to be that assessment group, and there's two responsibilities there. One responsibility will be a type of education. That's why they overlap a little bit. But the kind of education that it would be to help the different aspects of the city, or whoever comes to this working group and says, we want to go through the assessment with you. So that's one of the jobs, is to go through people who request to do the assessment. And the other thing is to promote using the assessment. So for example, we had on our agenda today, who would like to go to the Barre Area Development Corporation and do a presentation. That's the type of presentation that would be given, is about how are they assessing the work that they're doing with an equity lens. And let me just tell you, because I think people are afraid of this assessment tool, because they think when they look at the questions, they think, oh, I'm going to have to do all of this? No, it's an assessment. It assesses what you did do, not whether you had to do this or had to do that. So for example, if we got 10 projects in the city to do this process, and we looked at them later on, we could say, oh, well, the reason that this is the way that it is in that neighborhood is because they didn't do number 16, 17, and 18 on the assessment. So, okay. So it's just a kind of a worksheet for them to work through these questions. If they don't, it's not like, oh my gosh, you didn't do it. It's more like, oh, well, maybe we should do this next time because that question might address this problem. Does that make sense? Okay. So to me, and I have to admit, I'm kind of flummoxed by the fact that I haven't really realized this before, but really nothing can happen in terms of enforcement in the city unless there is an ordinance. So ordinances are key to operating in the city. And I don't know why I didn't realize how important it was before. I was probably focused on other things like, who knows, racism, sexism, I don't know. So I think that it is really important that we do that kind of work. And that's the type of work, I think, where we can start to integrate some of these other issues that we have to look at. For example, the ADA issues. Because as we look at these ordinances, we're not just looking at them for, oh yeah, the assessment tool, yeah, we'll use that. But we're also then realizing other things that are gonna be coming up. Okay, so that's that. And then the Let's Talk program, because it was so useful, I think, really needs to be the other major project or major working group that we work on. And that working group will be responsible for organizing the, let's say we're going to do 2 a year. That's not a lot. Having organized a couple of them before, it's probably enough work, but even one or two, whatever the working group can manage in terms of their capacity, even if it's one. So let's say it's one. So they organize one of these sessions a year or 2 a year, whatever you all decide. And then you would, the last session that we're having, well, we'll talk about this in a little bit. The last session would be designed to train people to actually facilitate, so that we would hopefully have a list of facilitators that you can engage. And I would recommend there be 2 facilitators with each program, not one. And then so that group would be responsible to make sure that those people are trained, to organize it, to arrange the hospitality, the location, that type of thing. And work alongside Christy for maybe for the last session and also she said that she would also do some training, some specific training, not just having you come to the last session, but also to do some training work with you. Okay, does that make sense for the Let's Talk? Okay. If we increase our capacity for some reason, because here's the thing, each working group can attract other people to join that group to help work. So for example, the Let's Talk group, even though it may be 3 of our committee members on that working group, you could have 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 people working with you. Maybe there'll be 4 or 5 people who also want to get trained to facilitate. So you can do your own recruitment for your own work, depending on what it is you think you need. And I would recommend, of course, recruiting people who have the skills that you want them to use. Okay, does that make sense to folks so far? Okay, cool. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I said everything. Okay, so the other thing that I realized is a couple of things happened that people told me about, and I thought to myself, wow, what a perfect opportunity for your grant if you came to us and said, we would like the endorsement of your committee. We know that all the funders now look at equity as a component of their grants. All of them do. The feds, the locals, Vermont Community Fund, everybody. Everybody's on this bandwagon. So for us to be available in that way to the city when they write grants is really important. But I notice nobody's asking us. It's because that we're not well integrated into the municipal workings of our city. In fact, we're not integrated at all. We're like this one-off somewhere in the distance. We're kind of in the outer atmosphere or something. And we have to get right into the center, because why aren't people calling us? I mean, I could think of 16 different reasons why they're not. Oh, one extra thing. Oh, they have such a bad reputation. Oh, Joellen's so mean. So who knows? But I think that Rick and I had a meeting, and Rick, if you want to chime in at any point, just in case I don't get this right, or you can present it too. I mean, that would be even better. I got together with Rick to talk about how best we can be more integrated into city decision making, municipal decision making. Are you there, Rick?
I am.
Oh, goodness. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, let me get my video going. So basically, when we talked about it, any directive that pertains to staff comes from the city manager. Or if the council wants to give a directive, they can go to the manager or they can go to department heads, but typically they go to the manager and the department head. So in order to get more integration of diversity and equity, I think the way to do that would be to communicate with the manager that, we'd like to have more integration, whether that's RFPs, whether that's RFQs, whether that's policies, procedures, whatever. What I explained to Joellen is a lot of times the RFPs, the RFQs, policies are time sensitive, which could be a challenge with a committee that meets once a month, because a lot of times we're trying to get an RFP out in a couple of days for whatever it comes down to, building repairs or street repairs, whatever it happens to be. And so it would be something for the committee to figure out would be if you're going to go to the manager and say, hey, we'd like to be more included in like review of RFPs or review of whatever policies, procedures, things like that, there would have to be a really quick turnaround on those things, which can be difficult. And that would be something that would have to be worked out by the committee. And then I said, as far as going to the manager with it, it's just, either sending them a letter saying, hey, can we talk, and how do we get more integrated in policies, procedures, things like that. So that's what Joellen and I were talking about. And Joellen, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay. So one of the ways to finesse this is to pledge to make two things. We can do a time limit. So if we have a working group does not need to warn a meeting, does not need to have a quorum, does not need to take minutes. A working group can call a meeting at a moment's notice. So for example, if something came through from Nicholas and and he wanted us to have a 3-day turnaround, that working group could either make phone calls to each other or text or whatever to address whatever it is that the manager is asking us to do. So I think as long as we meet once a month, it would be up to each working group, it would be up to the working group to comply with that quicker turnaround. I think that's the only way to do it. And something with a proviso that says, well, if we can't meet the 3-day limit, so be it. They'll submit it the way that it is. In other words, not use that as a holdup for any kind of project, but more as an additional kind of pair of eyes on it to look at this equity thing. And also, once we're more integrated, it might be more natural for different departments who know that they could use our endorsement to do that. I've noticed that the nonprofits in town talk about equity all the time. I've talked with them and they definitely put that into their grants, but they never contact us to ask for an equity assessment for the work that they do in our community. So hopefully that's something that also, not that we would pursue that right away, but just I think integrating into the municipal is the first step. And then once we become more accepted, maybe the city will say, well, look, you can't get a grant from us in Barre City, or you can't use us because often these nonprofits all use us because our statistics are so great, they're so bad that these different organizations use us as a way to get their grants. And perhaps sometime in the future it could be a little bit more formalized in terms of having a more even look at what we're doing, as opposed to willy-nilly, one group does it this way, one group does it that way. So that's kind of the more comprehensive view of all of these items. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to figure out which working group, you don't have to do it tonight, but figure out which working group you would like to be a part of. And then hopefully, and email me within, let's say within a week, and let me know. And then I will set up a meeting for each working group with each group, and to kind of start everybody off. And then at our next meeting in September, we can talk about, we can kind of figure out how things went. In other words, report to each other about whether we were able to have a meeting, or whatever the situation is. And in the meantime, I'll get hold of Ellen and Emily and give them kind of an update on what we're talking about, and that they need to make a choice as well. So I guess what I'm going to do then now is just ask if there are any questions or ideas or comments about anything that you've heard. Well, either it sounds reasonable or I've terrified you. I'm not really sure which. Here's the thing, people. We got to get to work in some way that makes sense for us and our limited capacity, and in some way that makes sense for the city. Otherwise, why are we here? We keep asking the city for direction, and I think they gave us direction. And I think that we need to take that direction, as simplistic as it was, and add to that the things that we learned along the way, and then present to the city a way to work, to move forward. At this point, I think we're at a point now where we know enough about what we don't know, and we also know enough about what seems to have worked so far in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so does that make sense to folks? Okay. So do I have any questions or comments or ideas about this?
You want an email within a week?
Yeah, I mean, you know
All
how lines. I mean, you're not going to go to detention if you don't give me your answer in a week.
No, I understand, but yeah, okay.
But what I want to do is I'm going to City Council at the next meeting to report on the cohort work that I did with Sam and Michael Deering. So, and I don't want to mix the two reports together. It's messy enough, this idea of what we're doing. So probably in an early September meeting, I'll want to go to City Council and let them know what our plan is. It would include the priority list plus the development of these two working groups and how they can integrate with the municipal work. Okay. So really, the sooner the better. The only reason I'm giving you a deadline is because I really want to get this done by September.
Joellen, can I ask a question? So when you're talking about the two working groups, there's one that's very clear to me, the Let's Talk working group that's going to help to plan, organize either 1 to 2 sessions per year for a Let's Talk training, let's say. And then what is the other, I think that's very clear to me. I guess my confusion is, what is the other working group? Because that seems a little more nebulous.
The other working group would be set up to really do everything else that we've been doing, which is talking with organizations that serve the community, other committees, and other departments in the city about assessing their work with equity lens using the assessment tool.
Okay.
Doing those presentations to folks so that they get more familiar. And the second piece would be when Nicholas, if we manage to do this with Nicholas' approval, where every department, every agency, when they're doing something that relates to a new project, contact us, or they're doing a grant, an RFP for a grant, to contact that working group to look over the project and, I don't know, give our approval or say what things are lacking, or just go through the assessment tool with them about that. Best if you do it with, but what I've noticed okay, there were two ways in my memory and in my observation that it worked for different groups. One was for them to go through the process, and then we looked at it and critiqued it. That worked for, I believe it was Brian who did one for street sweeping. And then the other way, which is when we were working with the police, I don't remember what their committee is called, about certain things that they were doing. That was a little bit different. That was like, that was us actively helping them figure out how to look at it. Was kind of a different way. So there's really two ways that we can be useful there. We can either actively be part of writing it up along with whoever that city manager is, or we can just accept the one that the city manager did, like Brian did, and then critique it and get back to him about it.
So that all sounds great. My question, I guess, a follow-up is, you had talked about examining ordinances and policies. Would that fall under that other group, or would that fall to this whole committee?
It would fall to it would fall to the group that's working on the assessment. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
What I'm anticipating is, I mean, we don't necessarily have the skills that we need now to do these things, but in order to do these things, we might have to gain those skills. And once we do, we'll be very useful to the city, and then it'll be much easier. In other words, if you wanted to work on this Let's Talk education series and you didn't go through the program yet, well, after you go through the program, you'll know. So it's also going to be somewhat of a learning curve to figure out how we can manage this and how we can work it. So to me, it's really an experiment. And that way, when we look at it that way, we also don't have to be wedded to it. You know, we can make the kinds of changes we might need to make in order to accommodate whatever the situation is.
So with that in mind, I know you said that we can email you. I think it makes sense, because I'm your city council liaison, to be on that working committee, because I think it would be helpful for me to be able to be able to bring things to the city council, and also to ask at the city council level, like, so why didn't this go? What could we next time send this through the diversity and equity committee, and be able to know what's happening and what's not happening, because otherwise I wouldn't know.
It makes a lot of sense, and it also helps you because you'll get more familiar with the ordinances too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them don't work anymore. Yes.
Are you all set, Sonia? I don't want to. I'm going to put in a plug too. As you said earlier, now that I've heard it, I love Christy. I love what she does. I think she is phenomenally good at it. I would love to be able to do that facilitation, but my skills really fall into the other working group. My job is to draft RFPs, state of Vermont, and contracts. I do it all day long. I did it today. I had one contract for $250,000, one RFP for $250,000. So I think that my skills, you know, plus I analyze statutes, regulations all the time. I figure that's probably where they should be. So, and I know things move on a quick timeline in that regards, and I'm prepared to do that if it comes, you know, if we won't get 2 days, then we'll do it, you know.
Cool.
So, plus I think Sonia's great. I'd love to work with her. So, you know.
So I want to actually finesse two things here. One, to obviously get the work done, but the second thing is to have people working on things that they're very interested in, because unless we feel for it, it's not the same thing, and that's what we're going to need.
No.
So low that we're going to need that kind of to keep working. Let me put it that way.
I was thinking about this today. The only way the council, I think, will take us seriously is we make ourselves serious. You know, push ourselves. You know, even the flag thing. Maybe we could bring it up again because we have a different council now. I don't know. But that made me mad, the whole flag thing. So, you know, but anyway.
Well, you know, these things are going to come up on their own, believe me. There'll be a time when someone raises it again, and then we're here. I don't
Yeah.
think we actually poke anyone in the eye anymore, any more than we have to. Let's put it that way.
No,
Okay.
I'd love to work for, you know, that group. I think it would be really beneficial. And I feel like we could do things.
Yeah, exactly. And then Rick, I'll work with you on the communication to Nicholas about what we want to do.
Yep.
I already sent you a draft of one piece.
Yep.
But we can work on that together so that it's in good shape. Let's put it that way. And then,
And oh,
sorry, go ahead, William.
since we're mentioning it, I'd also be interested in the committee working on with the ordinances and so forth. So
Okay.
I think that's after I've gone through the Let's Talk program, maybe I'll be more interested in that. But I think that's something that's more in my bailiwick than at this point in time.
You know, if we find that nobody is interested in the other committee, other working group, we don't have it. That's all. I mean, it's real simple. We know what our capacity is. We know based on our feelings what kind of work we want to do. We know based on our own skills and talents what we're good for. That's what this city needs. This city needs people who not only care about it, but who bring their real true skills to it. Or if they want to learn that skill, then they're open to learning it. So that's what makes sense to me at this point. And we'll all need to grow duck feet.
Is that to go on the web?
Very funny. I don't know. Are we ready for flood jokes yet? I'm not really sure. Maybe not. Okay, so this is great. I'm really glad that we worked this through because I've been really worried about our level of efficacy, our level of ability to actually help. Because to me, that makes it performative if we can actually help the city real directly. And not that we haven't been doing that, but at this point, it's time to formalize it in a way that actually has a life without us. Because okay, we won't be a committee, and we certainly want the committee to keep going and to keep doing the work based on the groundwork that we laid. Does that make sense? I mean, that's how I'm feeling lately. Maybe it's fatalism, I don't know. Okay.
I would be so grateful if we could work on flood-related issues. You know, at the Department of Environmental Conservation, we get every week links to all the stories that our department's involved in. And there have been articles recently, they're like entitled, "Whatever Happened to Governor Scott's Big Plans for Barre?" You know, and I really feel like that's something to focus on because we're going to have another flood tonight, whatever, you know, it's raining right now. I mean, so. Yeah.
Look, on the list of priorities, the last one on the list is climate change, which really is the reason for these kinds of events to be so dramatically different. So it's right on that list. And to me, then you would look into the ordinances maybe and to other things to figure out, you know, what kind of flood abatement there could be. So yeah, I think that's, to me, that's the place because unless it's in an ordinance, it's not going to happen, right? Okay. All righty. So I don't see any visitors, so I guess they don't have any public comments. And our next meeting date would be, hold on a second.
September 12th.
Oh, thank you. September 12th, 6:30. And once I get a clear idea about who's on which working group, I'll email you each. We'll find a date to meet, and then we'll do that. Okay?
All right.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Best to your puppy dog.
Thank you.
What kind of dog do you have, Rick? You're muted.
It's a Great Dane pit bull.
Oh my gosh,
Oh my God.
Yep.
that one.
That is quite a combination. Wow.
Radar. Say hi.
Oh, hi, Rick.
Oh, hello.
Mm. You're welcome. Great weekend.
Everyone, good night.
Sonia, could you stay on for a minute? I want to ask you a quick question, if that's all right.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Do you know anything about the taxes? I'm freaking out because
The municipal taxes?
yeah, the
Or
property taxes, yeah.
property taxes? So we just set the tax rates on Tuesday for municipal taxes, but we have been told because we don't have a school budget, we don't have an education tax rate yet, so we've been told by the state what we're allowed to charge, and then once we have a budget, it will probably change because I'm guessing it won't be whatever that base minimum is. And
Yeah.
then we will have to pay, you'll have to pay the difference in your next installments.
Okay, but the first one's gonna be due a week from today.
I don't think it's due in August. I think it's been pushed to September, but let me look it up and I'll email you. I think it was pushed off.
Okay, I don't
But I-
know, 'cause I don't get the Times Argus anymore, and I'm kind of out of it.
Did you
Yeah.
get your tax bill yet?
No.
I don't think you could have because we just approved them on Tuesday.
Okay, all right.
So I'll look and see, but I think that it was pushed to September, I think. So let me look that up in my notes and then I can shoot you an email or a text.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just freaking out because of, I hope I can afford the bill. That's, you
Yeah.
know, now
Yeah.
that my mom's gone and, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's still under her for this
Right.
year. Next year, I don't know, we'll see, but I'll worry about that next year. But anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Great. All right, well, I appreciate your help.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
All right, take
Bye.
care. See you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.